Okay. What do you know?
What do you know? Look at us. Back at it again. Not even back at it again. This is the first time we've met. Don't worry.
Yeah, fine.
Fun. Hey, congrats on the new single Baby Cakes, man. It's a killer. With Pink Pantheress, Little Uzi Vert, Shy Girl. What a dream team you've got coming on.
Yeah, Avengers Assemble.
Yeah. True. Imagine if the music industry did have an Avengers. Who would you play? What would be your character?
I don't know. I'm not a big Avengers guy. I probably couldn't even name them all. Maybe I'd be, I don't know, who kind of organizes them and is behind the scenes. Maybe I'd be
I'm
Jarvis.
I'm the last person you should ask of these questions. I have
Oh,
no
okay.
clue.
Well, neither of us know what we're talking about then.
Yeah, you could say anything. I'd be like, great choice.
Cool. Yeah, wicked.
Mad. All right. Well, this song uses a bit of interpolation in it. Is that kind of like a common method in starting songs for you? Tell me about this process.
Um, Ordinarily, I wouldn't start with a completely different song and then try and make it into another one.
Yeah.
But I feel like with that song particularly, that's the first like major pop tune that I remember hearing. Because in the UK, it was a number one record, and it kind of has like a cult underground cachet now. And yeah, I just really felt like it was a good time to kind of re-enter it into the cultural consciousness, but kind of reinvent it and like put a US rapper on it. And yeah, the main headline with that was I was just trying to have fun, I guess.
That's what you should always be doing. You always want to have fun at the end of it. But also, I think nostalgia is such a huge part of your sound at the moment. So it works perfectly. And then also, there's a huge appetite for nostalgia. Everyone doesn't want to live in the current day. Everyone wants to go back to the heyday.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an appetite for escapism for obvious reasons. But yeah.
Well, let's take it back to when this song was kind of like really kicking off back in the heyday. You grew up on the remote island of Guernsey, which is for those playing along off the coast of France, but it's a British island. Do you reckon that helped or hindered your craft growing up that
Uh,
disconnected? Or was it pretty connected? Paint me a picture. I wouldn't know.
it's pretty disconnected as far as it goes. I mean, I'm lucky to have been born at the right time to have had internet access,
Mm,
basically.
true.
Um, I think it really helped because, I mean, when I first moved to London, I felt like a complete outsider in that I didn't know anyone and didn't
Mm,
know what was going on or how to be or where to go or whatever. But come to realize, like, actually, that's a really special thing, and like having an outsider perspective can be really interesting. And people actually really go after that here. They want to hear interesting new perspectives and stuff. So growing up there, I think gave me a huge advantage in that I just was kind of on my own wave and didn't understand, you know, what other people were doing really.
yeah, that is good to run your own race. Otherwise, you do get this sort of homogenized sound. How old were you when you moved to London? When did you kind of feel like that was, obvious?
Um, well, I went to university in Brighton when I was 18, and that would have been right around the time that I was starting Mura Masa things. And then I moved to London a couple of years later. Uh, but yeah, the whole thing just felt like some massive uprooting for me because I'd never really left the island before
Ah,
that. So yeah, it was an exciting, scary time. But now I feel fully settled in
yeah.
London.
Well, good. Time has passed. Would hope that by now.
Yeah.
That's he's made friends. He's settled. He's put down roots. Good.
Yeah.
Was there much of a music scene on Guernsey? And was it kind of French influenced in any way, or not so much? Just had his own thing
Um,
going.
Historically, culturally French, but the modern culture isn't really that French influenced.
Mm,
As far as music, there's a wonderful little local music scene. There's a lot of like folk music. There's a lot of heavy metal. There's kind of a burgeoning like DJing slash producing scene that's kind of got a lot of drum and bass, and
Oh,
it's the
cool.
kind of music that, small towns would be into, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I imagine it's similar in Australia. uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, there wasn't really that much of a hip hop scene locally, not much of a dance music scene or like electronic stuff. So I kind of had to go to the internet for that stuff, at least when I was there. I mean, you know, I'm not as tapped in as I was, so maybe there's like an amazing dance music scene there now. But
Yeah,
I'm just talking
true.
about when I was there.
That would actually be pretty interesting if you were to go back and then almost like bring up the Guernsey dance scene. You know, create like a little school, a little army of little Mura Masa producers.
I try
That'd be
and
fun,
do
like
a
a writing
festival
camp.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, like a Guernsey writing camp.
yeah.
I've been trying to do a festival there for years, but it's actually really difficult to kind of navigate like the noise laws and like, figure out how to populate it and like how to book people and fly them over. And it's just logistically really difficult, but hopefully it's something that I'll do in the future, maybe.
Yeah, there's got to be some infrastructure to be put in place before then, I imagine. Would it
Yeah.
house a couple thousand people influxing the island? That'd be very interesting.
Actually,
So, how did you go from there? So you moved to Brighton at 18, and then mere like what 2 years later or something, you get Grammy nominated for your self-titled album, where you're collaborating with the likes of ASAP Rocky, Damon Albarn, Christine and the Queens. Like, what? How did that bridge happen? That seems crazy fast.
uh, yeah, maybe it is. I don't know, honestly. I mean, without wanting to sound like an asshole, just like I was just making music. Like I was just trying to make really good music. I mean, I think I got very lucky early on. Like I was putting music on SoundCloud, and
Mm.
I managed to find a really good manager, and kind of, early on, a lot of the infrastructural things like that went really well for me, and just kind of the right people hearing the music at the right time and that sort of thing. But yeah, it felt like a bit whiplashy. I didn't really know what was going on at the time. I don't think I drunk it in properly, but maybe that's a good thing. That's how it
Yeah, I
should be.
think naivety helps in that sense. Also, I imagine you'd just be like, "Oh, this is what happens for everyone. Like, this is just how it happens." Whereas everyone else is like,
Definitely
"This
no.
is this is crazy for my guy." Like, whoa.
I wasn't taking it for granted for sure. I was like
Oh, that's good.
very appreciative,
Yeah.
but didn't really understand it. Didn't necessarily feel deserving of any of it, and just kind of like put my head down and powered on, basically.
Do you feel like you've grown past that now? You feel you don't have that, I guess, lack of better word, imposter syndrome, or like you feel like you deserve it now?
Yeah, maybe deserve is a very strong word, but I'm confident. I know that I'm good at what I'm good at, and um, I'm a little bit older now. It's funny, like working with people like Pink Pantheress, who's 20 years old. She might be 21 by now, but just feeling like the older one when for so long I was like this, young kid. So now I'm having to kind of like take on a new role of like senior producer.
That's interesting because you're still really young. You're still like what, 24 or something. Like that's still
26.
26. Okay, well, still that's pretty young in the grand scheme of things. Maybe you have
Pretty
a,
young.
that's pretty young.
26.
Yeah, that's like, oh,
It's
well, if
like,
you're 24, you'd be young, but I hate to tell you now, Alex, it's pretty. You're getting older
some
now.
something happens after 25 where people are like, oh, okay. So you're
Yeah, you
basically
should
30.
be there by
Like,
now.
yeah, like if it's not happening now, it probably won't be.
Well, it is happening now, so prove to them you're on the right path. Um, that's so interesting that you have to take on this new role. Do you feel like you're a good role model then? Do you feel like you can relate to them finding, like, particularly Pink Panther is finding the success at 20 and off of the internet?
Yeah, I mean, not in the same way that she has, because she's obviously a phenom, like, and also she's just the queen of TikTok, you know, millions and millions and millions of people watching her. I can't relate to that. I can only empathize and sympathize.
You've got a bad
But
TikTok.
yeah,
Yours is like 40K. You've got a little following going
I'm
on there.
doing okay. Yeah. Well, it's like she's mentoring me, you know. But yeah, I do relate to some of the young people that I'm working with now, the younger people. Um, I kind of see them sort of doing some of the same things that I was doing when I was their age, and I'm able to give them a bit of sage wisdom or whatever.
That's nice. I like that. What would
Yeah.
be your sage wisdom? What if someone was listening to this and you had one piece of advice to give? What would it be?
Most of the time, it boils down to there's some decision that needs to be made, and there's a lot of unsureness, and it turns out it's just a lot of opinions like coming in from all sides and confusing the person. So I would just say figure out what it is that you want to do just off of gut instinct, and just do that, and just tell people that's what we're going to do, and then
Yeah.
work it out later. Even if it's the wrong decision, then you will have learned something, you know.
That's
At least you can own the
very
decision.
that's very trailblazing Guernsey of you. That's very much to the beat of your own drum of you. I love
The
that.
Guernsey way.
The Guernsey way. I'm curious as a producer, how do you know when your session's finished? I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with as well. And you're notorious for having fairly like sparse sessions comparatively to other producers, you know? How do you know when it's done? How do
I'm
you know when to
famous for
close it?
that.
Not famous. I'm just like it's a good point of comparison and showing that you don't
Yeah.
need to have 1,000 layers to make a full sounding song.
Right.
It's a compliment. Don't worry. Don't worry.
No, I know. There's different ways of working. I'd say there's nothing incorrect. I would just say that I'm definitely a student of the school of kind of like minimalism and Rick Rubin, and you know that Quincy Jones idea of like, is it a hook, or like, you know, what's it doing in the song? Does it need to be there? Um, how do you know when it's done? I mean, it's probably done like an hour before you think it's done. Like, it's good to know when to walk away, because you can just endlessly go back over stuff and you think you're making it better. That might be true to a point. One thing I do over and over again is like start the whole song again, like just sort of start again, like right next to where the old one is. And then as you're rebuilding it, you go through everything again and realize things that don't need to be there, or parts of the song that, you know, could be taken out. It's basically like reductionism, just like taking
Hmm.
things out more so than adding things as part of the finishing process, anyway. Is this helpful? I feel like I'm rambling.
I think it's helpful. That's an interesting technique to have a song and then be like, let's rebuild the structure on this. Let's go back to the skeleton and then add back the flesh into this. For me, that
Yeah.
almost sounds slightly torturous. You know, you're like, here it is.
Well, that's like an extreme solution, you know,
Yeah.
to being stuck. It's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't quite know what this means. You just
That's true,
start
actually.
again, and
Yeah.
like, it's because that's better than just listening to the same thing over and over again and not knowing which way is up anymore. You know?
Yeah. And I think for you, you come from like, I imagine, again, this is me putting words perhaps into your mouth, but you seem like the type of guy that's a very 360 artist. Like you think about your music, but then you're also thinking about what texture is the cardboard on my record album. Let's hide some demons in demon
Yeah.
time. Let's create this little world around everything. So I feel like you also have this scope that's like, if anything, perhaps multidisciplinary. Would you say the same?
Yeah, definitely. I think of myself as a dilettante, a renaissance man, a polymath, those sorts of things. I don't
Yeah,
know.
have to do it all.
It all seems very important to me. It's like, well, why wouldn't you be totally obsessed with what the artwork looks like, or yeah, the cardboard on the vinyl. I think this time we're doing a reverse sleeve, so it's like the wrong side of the cardboard rather than the outside. So not the shiny side, but like the inside matte side. It's very interesting.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's actually really cool.
Lots of people do it, but
Really?
I just thought that was a funny detail to bring up.
Yeah. Again, you love the little minute details. You posted a TikTok recently on the topic of TikTok about shoegaze. Will we see a shoegaze? Not super recently. It was probably a couple months ago. Recent
I
in
know the
terms
one you're
of
talking about.
yeah, yeah. Are you going to do a shoegaze track anytime soon? I know that you've got like this one with Pink Pantheress is obviously a bit more of like hyper beat. We've got like a bit of Afro beat across your track, some Tropicana like vibes. You came from like a poppy sort of sound. Now we're going into this darker nostalgia sort of area. Would we see shoegaze?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some shoegazy moments on my second album for sure. But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge emo guy. Like I was in a lot of bands growing up, like in Guernsey, like shoegazy, punky, hardcorey bands. So
Were you playing bass or
yeah, it's
something? What
totally.
were you doing?
I was doing all sorts. Like
Yeah,
when you're from such a small place, like it's very hard to
that's right.
form a band to like find all the musicians. So it's just
Yeah.
like we need a drummer, and then I was the guy who's just like, I'll figure it out. I'll learn how to play drums.
That's good. And I think that's such a good training ground for that school of thought as well, of just being like, I don't know how to do it. Why not just start now and figure it out? I feel like a lot of people get held back by being like, I need to know everything before I start. Whereas I think you've had the training ground of being like, there's no one else to do it, so I gotta just try.
Yeah, just work it out.
Just
What's
working
the
it.
worst that could happen?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm conscious of how much time we have left. So let's talk about you coming to Australia soon. Have you been here before? Have you come to Australia for a tour?
Yeah, yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing about Australia? Or what are you itching to try again now that you're coming back?
What am I itching to try again?
What are we teeing up
This
for when
time
you're on
I've
ground? What am I bringing you?
right, okay. Well, I was going to say something more abstract, which
Oh
is
no, go for it. Go for
uh,
it. Let's do that.
I think in the past when I've come to Australia, it's like you fly. It takes like 24 hours basically from London to get to Melbourne or Sydney or whatever, uh, and then you're there just completely sleep deprived, and then you got a show that day, and then you sleep for 3 or 4 hours, and then you get in another car to get on another plane to go. So like this time, I'm not going to do that. I think we're coming like a few days early. We're going to sleep. We're going to do it properly. So I'm looking forward to like actually being awake for the experience of Australia.
That's true. Yeah, you'll actually get to soak it all in. And you'll have
Mm.
to, I feel like you're going to have to come back another time with that same method for summer. Because
Yeah.
you'll be getting our chilly winter, which is not actually as cold as
Oh
probably
yeah.
where you're from. But yeah, it goes off in summer. We'll still have fun though. Splendor in the Grass, it's going to be a huge festival. Have you been to Splendor? Have you heard about Splendor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's the big one, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
the
it's a big
Australian
one.
Glastonbury.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Do you get to stick around for the whole festival, or are you jetting off after your day?
I think I'm gonna stick around for a second, but yeah, I'll see some other acts and walk around and have a little drink maybe.
Yeah, good. That'll be fun. And then you've got your side shows with Dane. Can you explain kind of what goes on at a Mura Masa live show?
Uh, Hopefully a lot of joy and a lot of dancing and a lot of strobe lights and some new music as well. Um, yeah, hopefully, hopefully some fun.
It will be fun. As we said earlier, fun is at the center of all of your music, and I'm sure it's going to be at the center of your crowds as well. Mura Masa, thank you
I
so much for
endorse
your
this
time.
message.
And I endorse your music.
Well, thank you.